Hi everybody, all my people. So I'm here today. I just want to talk about a little bit about the endocrine system and immunity, hormones, and stress response. So I think you're going to be a little surprised because I forgot some of this stuff. So hormones are a signaling molecule that travel through the blood carrying a message, important message. Players are the pineal gland, pituitary gland, pancreas, ovaries, testes, parathyroid, hypothalamus, adrenal glands, thyroid, and they send their messages through hormones or a signaling molecule to travel through the blood carrying a broad signal to any cell that has a receptor. So short strings, peptides, these are building blocks to proteins, and proteins are made of amino acids. Macronutrient essential to build muscle, but also macromolecules that perform a diverse range of functions. So for a cell, metabolizing structural support, act as enzyme carriers, hormones. Remember, to build protein, you need amino acids. So, there's always the talk about meats and vegans, vegetarians needing proteins. And what kind of amino acids make up those proteins is very important. So do your research. Earlier, I mentioned receptors. So receptors bind to specific hormones. There are a wide range of proteins made up of receptors for thyroid, steroid hormones, retinoids, vitamin D, etc. The hypothalamus in our brain, a small region of the brain located at the base of the brain near the pituitary glands, and plays a crucial role in releasing hormones, regulating our body temperature, and maintaining homeostasis. Who knew that our hormones did all this stuff? So, one big player is the anterior pituitary gland, and it regulates several hormones. The physiological processes, stress, growth, reproduction, and lactation are all a part of this anterior pituitary gland's job. It is located between the hypothalamus, which I just talked about, and connects the brainstem and the posterior pituitary gland. It is important in receiving the endocrine signal in the form of TSHB, a subunit of TSH, which I believe is a part of the thyroid system. So our thyroid. So the length, this also is in charge of the length, like giving the message of the length of the day. This is really important, and that is supplied by melatonin. So your exposure to light releases melatonin, and that lets it's an endocrine signal that lets your brain know how long the day is. So this is really important. So if your night day is messed up, if you don't get outside in natural light, what does this mess up? It messes up your hormones. It messes up your endocrine system. So all of that is supplied by melatonin in response to light information that is transmitted to the pineal gland. So the pineal gland actually has to be exposed to light. So how are you exposed to light each day? So following your circadian rhythm, your day-night. So when your circadian rhythm gets off, you not following a regular schedule, how does this is what plays into your hormone regulation. So the posterior pituitary has the job of water regulation and stimulates water reabsorption in the kidneys. So your whole kidney, lung, breath pattern, like that's really key too. So if you're not getting those messages, if your posterior pituitary gland is in charge of water, and your kidneys have to reabsorb that water into the body system back up to the lungs through water turning into gas and rising to your lungs, what does that affect, and what does that do to the body in responding to natural, like viruses and things like that coming into the body? All right, so This leads us to corticotropin releasing hormone, secretion of adrenocorticotropin. So this is all in the posterior pituitary gland. That is back and below the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary gland. So the post-pituitary gland is in charge of the release of corticotropin releasing hormone, and this catalyzes synthesis and secretion of adrenocorticotropin releasing hormone. So, producing cells of the anterior pituitary CRR is made up of 41 aminos. Is that right? Anyways, so is made up of 41 amino acids. So there are those amino acids again. ACTH hormone, adrenocorticotropin hormone, again made in the pituitary gland, a small gland at the base of the brain, which controls the production of cortisol. So cortisol made by the adrenals to respond to stress. However, cortisol has also gotten a bad rap, and I think that we're always trying to lower our cortisol production. We think cortisol is a bad guy here, but actually cortisol is necessary in our circadian rhythm, our natural role of like our life cycle. So cortisol made by the adrenals, which sit right above our kidneys, our response to stress. But stress is normal. We have to have a little bit of stress in life because that's what makes it fun and juicy. So cortisol is our fight or flight stress hormone. This term of cortisol and fight or flight, which I just said, is got a bad name, but it's not so bad. So we have kind of misunderstood it completely, and cortisol is actually our sympathetic nervous system, our yang to the yin of the parasympathetic, which is our nice chill mode. So what does all of this mean? Cortisol is a hormone that works with certain parts of the brain to control mood, motivation, and fear. And very important, it manages how the body uses carbs, fats, and proteins. It keeps inflammation down, regulates blood pressure, controls our sleep and wake cycle, boosts energy so you can handle stress and restore balance after. Our cortisol hormone is produced in the adrenal cortex, I said that earlier, which sits above the kidneys. Remember, I already mentioned that the hypothalamus produces corticotropin releasing hormone, CRH, that stimulates the pituitary gland to secrete adrenocorticotropin hormone, ACTH, and then stimulates the adrenal glands to make and release cortisol hormones into the blood. All of this is a part of allostasis, the process by which the body responds to stressors in order to regain homeostasis. And perhaps this is why people are mesmerized by watching those videos on YouTube, the wild animal videos, you know, the ones where the lion is chasing the beautiful zebras and about ready to get them, and then whoop, next thing we know, the zebra are all peaceful, eating their grass and watching the tiger roll over and over off to the side. So that's normal, you know, side by side. It's the cycle of life. And so we get a little reminded when we watch those videos that we got it good. So this is called the HPA Axis, and it is considered a negative feedback loop. The way that the body wakes consists of 3 types of hormones and makes up the hypothalamic pituitary axis. The hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis and its rhythms. So endocrine, neuroendocrine, and cytokine, and its we categorize these hormones according to action. So these are all hormones, endocrine, neuroendocrine, and cytokine. We categorize these hormones according to action, structure, and source. For instance, the cytokine hormone is produced in the cell of adipose tissue or fat, and its construct is a negative feedback loop in that it releases a cell signal in a molecule called leptin, which tells the brain not to eat too much. Another hormone is cholesterol, which consists of shape or structures of 3 larger and 1 smaller shape, and is steroid based and is produced on demand as needed. So if we're always trying to get rid of cholesterol, if we're always trying to shut down different things, then we're shutting off the messages, like leptin telling us to not eat too much. Another hormone is cholesterol. So I just said that. Cholesterol is produced on demand and is stored until we need it. It is fat soluble and has slow production. We store cholesterol to make steroid hormone, and they consist of tyrosine, epinephrine, and serotonin. They need protein to travel, and they do their job and are part of the thyroid. Only 10% are free at a time, and like I said, they need protein to travel while more is being produced. The only way that these messages can be heard is if they are received, if they reach a receptor cell. So no receptors, no changes, no message is given to the body. If other things so this is just something to think about in our current state, is if other things fill those receptors, then messages can't be heard. So other things besides hormones that could fill a receptor could be like if you have leaky gut and you're getting the proteins from gluten, those proteins that aren't digested properly and escape through little holes in your cellular structure, those could fill the receptors that normal hormones are supposed to be giving messages to. So that's where things could get a little wonky in the body and create like inflammatory markers and things. Another thing perhaps, and this is just my own little theory, is what if viruses are coming into the body and floating around freely, which is my understanding of the coronavirus a little bit, and it is able to get into those receptors and give bad messages. So these are all a part of the inflammatory marker. So these are all a part of that negative feedback loop and are the hypothalamus, CRH, pituitary gland, ACTH, adrenal cortex, glucocorticoids. All of this is a stable negative feedback loop, and it keeps our body running at a natural metabolic functioning system. Okay, that's my little bit for today. A little too long, but thank you for listening and have a lovely evening. I'll be back later for more information. Thank you.